So atomic structure. So so what you see on the left over here is with all the technology that we have today, the scientists have managed to isolate a single atom. An atom is the smallest unit of matter, and so basically atoms put together will form molecules, molecules put together will form matter. Okay, so so an atom is so tiny that it's like if like, you know what 1 millimeter is on a scale, right? Like if you look at your regular ruler, you'll see what 1 millimeter is, and 1 millimeter is so tiny, and an atom is almost like 1 divided by 1 million times, or something of that order, times a millimeter. Okay, so that if you divide a millimeter into 100,000 or a million parts, that's how small an atom is. So it is impossible or close to impossible to see an atom with our naked eye. But however, with all the technology and everything, yeah.
I always wondered if ants or other creatures can, like other like really tiny creatures can see atoms. I've always wondered that.
Good. I've never thought of that, but I highly suspected, because even at that scale, it is very hard to see atoms. Like even
I think, and what intrigues me the most, like how clever were these scientists to find out the particles of atoms, to find out the atomic, like the atomic structure without the electrical microscope or anything. Like how clever were these guys?
Yes, so that's what we will learn about today. But yeah, so let me ask you guys, are you able to spot the atom in this picture?
Yes, ma'am, I can see neutrons, protons, and the electrons.
Oh no! In the machine next to that, in between those two pointy things, this tiny dot which you see.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah, so that tiny little dot is an atom, and you know what? That atom would not even be visible to the naked eye. The method by which that is being made visible to us is because of the cameras. If the cameras were not able to, look at, there is something called as a long exposure shot, which I will explain to you what that is. But anyway, so this atom over here that has been isolated is the strontium atom, illuminated by a blue-violet laser. So let's take a look at, this is what it looks like in the middle over there, and that small tiny dot that you see between those two probes, that is an atom. So that is a strontium atom, and it has been illuminated with a laser light. And the reason for that is because that laser light can be captured by the camera, and then that will be visible to us. So does anybody know how
small is the device?
What is it?
How small is the device which they use to, show that atom?
That is very tiny. Like it's almost like maybe 1,000, 10,000 times. If you divide a millimeter by 10,000 times, that's how small it is.
Ma'am, I think, no, ma'am, he's asking about the machine, like the thing, the contraption which was able to show the atom.
Oh, the entire, like that huge machine?
Yeah,
that is huge. That is like, so what you're seeing is only a part of the machine. The machine itself is actually pretty huge. It would be maybe like the size of your laptop, or, your monitor or something like that. Yeah?
That's pretty darn small then.
What is it?
Then the atom would be pretty small, because the screen of the laptop is kind of small only compared to many things. Or other.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so does anybody know how to take these kind of shots? Like this picture, like how, does anyone know how it is taken?
Yep.
Yeah, can you tell us?
So basically, generally while taking pictures, what my dad explains to me is that he talks about something called like the principles of light, and then and then you have to choose the angle on like how light will work, like sometimes. He never explained it to me in detail, but he always talked about like that, how to get those kind of like amazing shots. And especially what I like about the picture is like the night sky. It looks
Right. So how is it
I
possible?
think, because they take repeated, so this is not just one picture. This is like the camera takes many pictures at like in 1 second. That explains that's why the stars are so prominent. They take the pictures again and again, and like a ton of pictures, and then they overlap them in one picture, and then this comes out.
Okay, so today we are studying atomic structure. So yeah, so I was asking you, and I think Kavya, did you answer how to take these shots? I think it was you, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the way to take these shots is that you take the camera and you position it in one place, okay? And then you set the camera to take pictures continuously. So the camera takes pictures continuously for maybe like, let's say 2 minutes, okay? So the camera takes pictures for 2 minutes, repeatedly it keeps taking pictures. So what happens is the cars, they move, right, on the road. When the cars move, their picture is taken repeatedly at different positions, and then all of these pictures are overlapped, like one picture is overlapped onto another, and all these pictures are overlapped onto each other, and then you end up getting a picture that looks like what is on the screen. So this is called a long exposure shot. So long exposure means basically you put pictures on top of each other, and then the light appears very, very bright. And that is why the stars in the night sky, you can see they're really, really bright, and you can see these streaks of red lines, red lights and white lights or yellow lights, whatever. You can see these streaks of light very brightly because it's not just one image, it's a lot of images placed on top of each other. That is why you're able to see these colors so brightly, okay? So that is how this particular shot was captured. So imagine that this long exposure shot of this atom was taken, the shot was taken hundreds or thousands of times, and then all those images were overlapped on top of each other, and that is when you go and you see that, okay, this is the isolated strontium atom that I have. So you can imagine that it is impossible with our current technology for the human eye to view it directly, to view an atom directly. So an atom is really, really tiny. So with all of the current technology that we have now been finally able to isolate an atom and view it the way it is. So how is it possible that we still haven't seen electrons, protons, and neutrons? Okay, we've only been able to isolate the atoms. Okay, so with all this technology, after so many years, we've been finally able to capture this picture. Yeah.
The only way, like I think, to see like protons, neutrons, and electrons, like actually, I think if you go subatomic.
Correct.
Like if a person can go subatomic, then they can see.
Right, but like
also, and there are particular experiments they have, like cathode rays, anode rays, and then the particular, and we still aren't completely sure of the atomic structure being like that, but it makes the most amount of sense. So
like out of all the experiments, Rutherford, Niels Bohr, and J.J. Thomson, all of them.
The question is, how did these scientists, like with the current technology, we've only been able to isolate an atom. So without
one of the experiments like which Rutherford did was a gold foil experiment.
Correct, right. Let's
Sandesh, it was to prove if J.J. Thomson's model of the atom was correct or not. But then, if the model was correct, then all the rays of the sunlight should have passed through. But then some of them were deflected back.
Okay, Arya, I'll have to stop you there because not everybody knows the experiment. So let me go organically, and then when we are at the experiment, you can talk about that, okay?
And I don't know who said that you had to go subatomic to see an atom. Like really, you should go subatomic to see an atom. Not necessarily. If you don't necessarily have to go subatomic, as long as you can see an atom, that means you have to reduce to a size, or you should be able to see to a size where atom is at least as big as, like an ant or something. You don't necessarily have to go subatomic. I'm just saying.
So you don't have to go subatomic, but what he meant was that is one of the ways, okay? Anyway, but we haven't gotten there yet, so let us proceed. Okay, so this is a long exposure shot, and so if we are able to finally now isolate an atom, how is it that scientists back in the day, when they didn't even have all of this technology, how did they find out that, this has electrons, neutrons, protons? How did they find out all of these things? So let's go back in time and look at 600 BC. There was this dude called Kanada, and he had a theory, and he said that Kana is like what I am made up of, because his name was Kanada, right? So he was like, okay, so I am made up of smaller particles called Kana, and what make up Kana is called Anu. So Anus, they get together to make Kana, and Parmanu get together to make Anu. So Parmanu is your atom, and atoms come together to make molecules, which is Anu. So Parmanu come together to make Anu, and Anu together come together to form Kana. So basically Kana is matter, which is inside of you, inside of this pen, inside of this phone. Basically every substance that you can physically touch has matter, okay?
Did he predict this, or did he discover this?
This was his theory. He said this. Like,
this was a theory.
Yeah, this was a theory. Okay. So he's like, okay, so I'm made up of matter. Matter is Kana, and then molecules is Anu, and atom is Parmanu. Okay, so you must have heard of Parmanu bomb, or Parmanu basically means atom, atomic bomb. Okay. So Parmanu or Param means ultimate. Okay. So ultimate is like, that is the most basic, like the building block of everything, of every matter that you see. So that is what Parmanu is. Okay.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, two atoms combined to, like in his language, two Parmanu combined together to form Dayanuka, right?
Two Parmanu combined together to form?
Dayanuka. It is actually there in our textbook.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think the short of that is Anu.
No, I don't think so, because it is Dayanuka, right? Means
Parmanu is the bomb blasted in Pokhran, I guess, the nuclear testing.
And further combination of these leads to Trianuka.
Oh, you're saying 2 and 3. That's what you're saying? Okay, okay, yeah, that is, you're right. So if you have two, that will have one, like two Parmanus together will have like one molecule. For example, hydrogen is diatomic, right? So similarly, you have two, and ozone is triatomic because it's O3. So yeah, I mean, you get the logic, right? Did everybody understand this?
Sure. Yes.
Yep.
All right, good. Let us proceed. All right, so now we go on to 460 to 370 BC. Then there was this scientist, or he's called Democritus, And he said that nature is ceaseless motion of small material, indivisible and eternal particles which cannot be created nor destroyed and are unchanging. So what he means is that nature is motion of small material which is indivisible and which cannot be created nor destroyed. So basically what he said that everything is made up of these tiny particles which cannot be created or destroyed, and they are called atoms, and they are unchanging. That means if I have an atom of hydrogen, then it will be an atom of hydrogen. If I have an atom of oxygen, it cannot be changed into nitrogen. It will be oxygen. So that is what he said. So he said that they can not be created or destroyed and they are unchanging. Annihilated means destruction. Okay, annihilate means to destroy. Okay, so that's what he said. Oh yeah, and he was the one who coined the term atom, and it comes from the Greek word atomos.